Thank you. And like I said, it was one of those things that I had to ask a question. Thank you. Okay, welcome. Let's do a call to order, roll call. You ready now?
Turn on. It's been forever since I've done this.
We are recording
Are we
on
doing that?
Zoom, so I don't think
I
you
don't
need
have to
that.
worry about that. So,
Well, there you go.
okay. All right. Casey Burkle, present. Kevin Busher,
Present.
Mike Conrad,
Here.
Julie Obermore. Here. Crystal. Here. Kim Taylor. Carol Tracy.
She's here.
She is on. Jennifer Wagner. There she is. Jennifer Wagner and Connie Waldrop. Okay, we officially have a quorum here, and I will do the executive once we switch over to that. So, but planning and oversight, we do have a quorum.
Fantastic. Everybody had time to review and approve, review the March 17th minutes. Were there any questions on what Debbie sent us? If not, I would like to have a motion to approve that.
Make a motion to approve for March.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
There it is. Okay, move right along. Conflict of interest disclosure. Need any conflict of interest disclosure at this time? If not, we will move on to Debbie with the grant recipient financial fiscal agent reports.
Okay. So let's start with the statement of expenditures. The very first one is us Iowa folks. Right now it's showing at 77.4%. Right now, 10 out of the 12 months should be 83.3%. So we are easily well within range of, we should not hit our 100% or go over by the time at the end of the fiscal year. So about the only thing that I wanted to point out for this page is that since the last meeting, we did add the travel out of state admin. Jamie actually went to an out of state conference, and so we didn't add anything money-wise to the budget. We just basically split out the travel out of state or travel in state between out of state and in state. So it's the same pot of money. We just broke it down between two different account numbers. So any questions on that one? Okay, the next page, this is new since the last one. Basically, this is the apprenticeship navigator grant, which Nate, basically it's his different costs. This is actually going to be part of the budget for approval. Just, we didn't really set a budget like we do normally with WIOA. This is basically the costs that were approved for the grant from DCO. So we didn't have a whole lot of wiggle room per se. We applied for and some money. They came back with a couple of recommendations and they came back with these numbers. So that is what that, and so whenever I send that out, since it's not on a year-by-year basis, this was actually an 18-month grant. I'm just going to keep track of basically the entire grant budget instead of the actual fiscal year. I'll probably still have the year-to-date expense, but we'll track it more so on the entire grant. Any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to the accounts payable report. For that one, Dell, that was laptop for Nate. And then there was a few different incumbent worker trainings, but otherwise a lot of it is normal month-to-month sort of items. So I'll let you look that over, see if there's any questions on that. If no questions on the accounts payable report, we will move on to the key metrics report. That one actually is looking a lot better since the last time we met. We actually got permission from DCO to report our obligations in a different way. We now can report our contract with SEPs And so before we were just reporting steps obligations, so now we can report the entire contract amount. So now we are well within our 80% range. So that definitely is looking better. And as far as the action plan that they were so concerned with, they really have left us alone about that at this point. So I think getting that obligation really helped with that sort of thing. The very bottom, the youth minimum 20% for work experience, it shows 18.7 as of April. I just got done entering the May numbers and we officially hit 20.5% for the 20 grant. So 21 will be quite the uphill battle, but we at least hit it for the 20 grant. So any questions on that one?
Tony, with what you did with the with the obligations, have you shared that with any of the other groups so they could do the same thing?
As far as
For the obligations.
a lot of other areas are already doing it that way.
Oh,
So when
so they
DCO,
didn't share it with us then?
correct. So
Okay.
we always obligated, and Debbie, to tell you better, just what she said, we would all obligate only Seth's expenditures or their obligations. They did not, and we didn't differentiate the board and Seth's being two different entities.
Right.
So they're like, well, go out and get another provider and obligate that entire contract. I said, well, we got a contract with Seth's. Why don't we just obligate that entire contract? And they said, well, we didn't know you did it that way. Well, we've done it that way for 140 years. Yeah.
Well,
So,
I was just hoping if we learned something like that, that would help us, if
Yeah.
we shared that with the other groups. But
it's
apparently-
unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunately, they didn't, other
Share it
areas didn't
with
share
us.
it with us.
Exactly.
But
Okay,
we got over that hurdle now and hopefully never have to look back.
If no other questions on that, we'll move to the training versus overhead. The first page of it, we are showing at 63.8% and the requirement is 50%. So we are doing very well in that. And the second page is just the overall, just for our tracking purposes at 59.5%. So any questions on that one? Okay. The MOU invoices. Basically, we just have one outstanding, the unemployment office, but they will pay in July like they always do. So no worries there, but everybody else is all caught up and taken care of. No questions on that. We'll move to the incumbent worker training projects. We've had quite a few projects, either completed or in the works. We just found out that graphics packaging is not going to be the full 15,000. So we are going to do some adjusting and move a couple of the items that went towards the 21 grant. It will go towards the 20 grant to try and make up the difference. But we are sitting pretty good, I think, as far as different projects and getting that money spent. And I think Tony's got two other ones that, since I sent this out, that have been added, so. Any questions on that? Okay. The next item on the list, DCO annual monitoring results. The DCO actually, they monitored us that was in May, I believe. And we had the exit conference on 6/2. Fiscal wise, there were no findings, no recommendations. There were several for program, but at this time they were going back after doing the exit conference and taking what we said into consideration and looking at what they had said before they issue a final letter. So we were just in the process of waiting for that. So the next item, the TY21 formula funds update, we actually received an additional $69,659. It originally came in as dislocated worker money, but you can move in between adult and dislocated worker, and we felt that the need was more in the adult side. So that money actually got applied to the adult funds. So an extra $67,000 to use over the next year. And the last item, the new funding. If you saw in the packet, I sent out the funding by local workforce area. It's got all of our areas in Illinois. It shows that we've got a 11.5% cut this year on top of the cut from last year, but at least we are in the range of the average. We're not super far away from what everybody else got. So at least we're close there, but it still stings having cuts like that 2 years in a row. So any questions on any of the reporting?
Okay, if there's no questions, I do need a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
I'll second. And we do need a roll call on that.
Okay.
please.
All right, Casey. Yes. Kevin Busher.
Yes.
Mike Conrad.
Yes,
Julie.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Taylor's not on. Carol Tracy.
Yes.
Okay, no Jennifer, no Connie. Okay, we're good.
fantastic. The current LWIA 23 performance report, please.
You should have in your packet the performance measures. I ran this again just this week and our numbers are a little bit better for the youth, but we'll start at the bottom. Those dislocated workers, we are exceeding 4 of those and meeting 1. The adults were exceeding 4 of those measures and meeting 1. On the youth, we're exceeding those 3, meeting 1, and we're failing the youth measurable skills gain. And we're continuing to put those in the system as we've had a lot of kids finish the semesters and finish high school, graduating. A lot of that, we're still waiting to put those in the system. And the report you got 26.85. I put in 8, I think, and it's kicked it up to 28.49. But we have enrolled a lot of youth in the last month or so. So those numbers, they're really fluctuating for us. So to meet the measure, we have to have 33 more youth getting a credential. To exceed that, we have to have 42. So hopefully we will have those all put in by the end of the month, and that'll look a little bit different, but we've got several to put in. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you. Any questions?
Is there anything, I know we've had multiple discussions, is there anything we can do to help you get some of those youth, help them attain their credential, anything we can help you with?
At this point, most of it is, we have a lot of the credentials. It's just staff time getting them put in the system. And we've been busy working on the applications, enrollments, things like that. This is kind of put to the side. I mean, we've got until into July, August to enter this for this program year. So I think we will be just fine. It's just putting them in there because we've got several that are, I mean, I've got several sitting on my desk that I haven't put in yet. So, but no, I think we're good. The enrollments have really shot up, crazy shot up.
Well, get your magic wand out and just get all that stuff put in, right?
I'm working on it. I'm working
I
on it.
know. Clone yourself. Maybe that's what it is.
Lori, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Maybe we should have talked about this before the meeting, but is it worth talking about the statistical adjustment model and how that's going to play a role in us meeting those goals? Or should we hold off until we have some more concrete discussion with DCEO?
Let's wait on that. I don't want to
Until we
confuse, I don't want to
understand it.
confuse. It's kind of been confusing for us. Let's wait until we know a little bit more
Okay.
so we can really explain it.
So we can really
Maybe
muddy
next
the
time, huh?
waters.
And then Tony can explain it because he's going to.
It is above my pay grade.
Yeah,
Save that for next time, huh?
Just like new math, is that what this is?
Yes, it's a silly model that somebody came up with. It's a genius idea, they think. But we're not quite sure how it
Yeah.
works yet.
Only for geniuses.
That's it. They get it, but
It didn't hurt our area when they did the adjustments for us. It didn't hurt us, but there were several areas where they were meeting or exceeding and they're now failing because of this adjusted model. So I always thought it was there to help the local areas, but in some cases, it's not working out like that. So that's why I think we need more information before we would bring it to you, and so we can understand it a little bit better.
it's still in the pilot
Yeah,
phase. I think in 2025, is that when it's supposed to go live, I guess, or actually count against us?
yeah.
So
So
they're
what's the
trying
thought
to,
process behind even changing a model? You know, I mean.
Because
has
it's
it
done
been
that way
failing?
at the federal level for the state, so they want to apply it now to the local levels. So the idea behind it is instead of setting this goal through negotiations at the beginning of the year and then trying to reach that goal and setting it higher and higher every year and eventually reaching, topping out, the idea is that it will use our current activity to adjust that goal that we've negotiated. So if we negotiate it being serving 94% completion rate of youth, then if we hit 94, then the next year we would have to aim for 95 or higher. So this is supposed to take, well, maybe we're not doing so well. We're only getting to 80%. So it'll knock that goal down and we would fail, but by not as much. Or if we exceed, that goal would raise automatically, it would adjust and we might still exceed, but not by much, or we might just meet. So the idea is to just kind of have it more reactive to what we're actually doing instead of just being this very static number from day one that we just guess at. And I'm excited about it because it has worked out well for us and it sounds great for us, but we are seeing other LWIAs are not getting the results that we are. So we should maybe wait, make sure that we understand all of the things they're considering first.
Okay, have fun with that. It's so simple before. Okay, Tony, program fiscal monitoring.
since we met last, I did the program monitoring for CEFs. I usually take 25% of their files that are new since the last time I monitored, which would be a year ago. Long story short, they didn't have any findings. I think the difference in my monitoring and state's monitoring is we communicate a lot better. So if I find something in a file that I have a question on, I ask. And if they can fix it right there, they fix it right there. It's no big deal. We move on.
Mhm.
The state's system does not let them do that. So that's what Debbie was saying, that on the program side, they had some findings. In my opinion, they are not findings. It's checking a box. You didn't check a box on this piece of paper. Well, I did for the last 2 years of paperwork, but I missed that one box. You made it a finding. That's silly. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm doing them a disservice by giving no findings, but anything that we find, we fix. And that's just, that's the name of the game. We're supposed to fix things. It's not out to get them. So anyway, long story short, they had no findings. I think CEFS does a tremendous job of what they do, and their file organization is out of this world. I mean, it's amazing.
Great. I do need a motion to approve that. And a second, please.
Make a motion. Second.
Excellent, thank you. Training program certifications. Tony?
Every year at this meeting, we recertify all the programs that we own, I guess, in IWDS. And that is all the programs that are available for our participants to enter into at Illinois Eastern Community Colleges, Lakeland College, Eastern, Illinois University, and Vincennes. Kaskaskia College gets done at 24. They approve all their programs. So anyway, the list that you got in the packet, there were several, 72, 75 from IECC in Lakeland, and I don't know, maybe 12 or something from Eastern, 4 or 5 from Vincennes. But by the policy, we have to recertify them every year, and that's what we're here to do.
can a program get decertified?
It can,
I mean, we look at programs to begin with to make sure that they qualify
right.
for the need of the area. If that need changes in the area, should programs be taken away or deep? Or if a program is not used for so many years, should it be dropped off and have to be recertified?
At some point, you can do that. And that was my question to DCO, because they came out with a new policy on how we approve programs initially. And they have to be an in-demand occupation based on how many openings there are in the state of Illinois and blah, 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 whatever. But they did say that, and I got it in writing, anything that has been approved in the past, once it comes time for recertification, you can, just because it's not on the in-demand occupation list now, you can still reapprove it until you want to go through it, until the program doesn't exist anymore, or you go through it and just your board wants to take it off, you can. I think limiting our participants to programs that, I hate to take anything off now that's been approved in the past, gives them more of a broad range of what they want to go be in life. But if you take something off now, and somebody happens to come in and say, hey, I want to be an underwater basket weaver, and it was approved 20 years ago, now it's not an in-demand occupation, so they can't get in it. So it's limiting what they can do. So I would, my personal opinion, would just leave everything that's been approved in the past, leave it on there. We still have a stringent process to go through to get something on there if it's not an in-demand occupation. We have to prove that it's in demand in our 13 counties, which is a lot of paperwork and
So are you telling me that there is a qualification on Seth's side that if somebody comes in and says they want to be a underwater welder, you would probably, even if it was certified, you would look at that and maybe say, no?
If it's on the approved list, we will let them go into.
they'll let them go
If
to.
it's not on the approved list, we can go to Tony and say, hey, can you get this on the approved list?
Yeah, so what they do,
And
they
that's
give
what-
them.
and that's why I'm going and asking.
Yeah, they give them a training proposal packet, so every participant has to go out to at least 3 employers that would potentially hire them if they got this degree and say, you know, how many openings you have, what do you pay, what are the hours, whatever, and would you potentially hire me if I got this degree? So if they come back and say, well, I went to 3 employers and there's no openings in any of them, well, then their case managers say, you know, maybe that's not a good training program for you to go into because you're not gonna get a job at the end of it. So
that there is some pre-qualifications
Yes,
to some extent.
yes.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was asking, because I hate to see some of these programs that got certified 10 years ago by us that are no longer.
And there probably are, I'm not gonna lie, there are some programs, because there's a lot of programs on there. I guarantee there's programs that we don't have a participant in.
Oh, yeah.
Guarantee it.
You probably haven't had a participant in years.
For a while, yeah, but I just like to let them have that option.
Okay.
If we do get a participant that wants to go into it.
That's fair enough.
Until DCO tells us we're gonna have to crack down and say, you know, this isn't on the occupation demand list, you gotta take it off. They haven't said that yet. If they do, I hope they don't, because that list of 72 programs will go down to 10. And it really limits what people can go into and what they will do with their life, and that's not fair.
That's not fair, right? Okay, thank you, Tony.
Tony, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're approved from 24, that list would be honored for students in the district. Oversight
Yeah, so if
program.
anything
You
is
don't have to have any differences.
No, so if anything that's on IWDS on our system that's approved, anybody in the state can use it. So if you got somebody from East St. Louis that wants to come over and go to school there, they're fine too. I mean, anybody can use it.
And same thing with anybody from here that would want to go to college in Metro East, if that is approved there.
Right. If it's approved on the list, it's approved across the state.
Okay,
Everybody can use it.
okay.
It's just each board has their own little area. And since Kaskaskia College is physically in Clinton County, that's in area 24. So
Right.
every program goes through their board instead of our board.
Understand.
And I don't imagine that there would be too many programs on there right now that don't have an in-demand need. Doesn't mean people, I mean, you know, with the workforce shortage and that, just about
Mhm.
everything else, scanning those lists.
Any more questions? Okay. Appointment of certification committee.
Okay, so this is,
We need to vote on that, don't we?
Oh, I'm sorry. My fault.
oh, you guys already have it? Sorry, my bad.
I need a motion to approve the program certifications.
So moved.
I'll second. Okay, now Tony, appointment of certification committee.
All in favor?
Aye. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the certification committee, what we were just talking about, certifying programs, this committee is, that's the responsibility of this committee. But if something were to come up in between meetings, the state allows us to have a committee of two to approve programs in between our meetings. And Lewis Ryder has been that person for the last, 15 years maybe. But Lewis is retiring as of June 30th, I think. So he is no longer going to be on this two-man committee. The other person is me. So if somebody on this committee would do it, I do all the work. So it's, all you got to do is say yes or no. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, can you get this on the approved list? I will get the labor market information. I'll send it to whoever and say, do you agree that this should be approved? You say yes or no. It's conditionally approved until our next meeting. That's basically what that little two-man committee is for. So if anybody wants to volunteer.
He's looking at you.
Too soon to knock.
You got blinders on.
Don't make eye contact.
No, yeah, don't look at him, don't look at him.
I would be happy to serve on the two-person committee with Tony, since our offices are like 3 doors down from each other, so.
Well, thank you, Chris. I will make it painless as possible.
He knows I'm gonna cave, that's what.
By now, we all do.
Well, I know. The secret.
That's why your office and your office to get to him.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so thank you, Chris. It doesn't happen very often, it really doesn't, but it does happen, so.
Okay, Tony, policy changes.
Okay, this one's, out of all the things I've done today, this is probably the biggest one, because this is a decision you guys are gonna have to make based on a lot of things. So we've got 3 different policies, the board policies. Let's just start with on-the-job training. We set a policy of $25,000 per company per year that we would reimburse their wages for. Being that the minimum wage and all wages have gone up over the last, since we've done this, we want to raise that to $35,000 per company per fiscal year. And the reason we set a limit on it is because we were giving Patterson Dental $100,000 or whatever every year and throwing all the money in that bucket. We didn't really do that. So anyway, we want to increase the limit that we can give companies. So there's that one. The on-the-job training, we're going to raise it. We want to raise it to $35,000 a year. The next one is ITA, which is individual training account. That's just the amount of money that we will spend on a participant in any fiscal year. And we did have a limit of $8,500 per fiscal year, but it could be increased with Jamie's approval and I think Lori's approval. We didn't really go over that a whole lot, except for maybe the nursing students. I think that was about it, right?
Yeah.
But just with the increase, I'm going to say this with tongue in cheek because Lakeland just reduced their credit hour amount, but only for a year. But sooner or later, the credit hour amount is going to go up. So anyway, we want to raise that to $10,000 per student per fiscal year. We're just going with the times is all it is. We're just kind of going with the cost of being alive. So that's it, $8,500 to $10,000. That's the change we are proposing there. Incumbent worker, we had a limit of $10,000 per fiscal year per company. The last probably 5 or 6 long-term trainings that we have funded have been over $10,000. So I've seen with IMEC, their lean leadership, lean concepts training has gone from anywhere from like $9,000 to about $15,000 over the course of about 5 years. So their training has just increased. So then again, instead of coming to this committee like I always do and asking to go over the $10,000 mark, we're asking to set the limit at $20,000 with a maximum of $30,000 with this committee's approval. So those are the 3 increases that we would like to do in our policies. And does anybody have any questions on any of them? I'd be glad to try to make it more muddy.
When was it last time any of those 3 were increased?
We didn't have one for incumbent worker. So we set that in 2020.
Okay.
We didn't even have a cap, but we ended up making a cap. ITA was 2019, March of 2019, on-the-job training. We set that along with the incumbent worker in December of 2020. So these 2, on-job training, incumbent worker, never had a cap until 2020. The last time we raised the ITA limit was 2019.
I think when you look at the percentage of increase and not having an increase in a year and a half, it's not out of line.
I would agree. We had these conversations with Lori and Kevin and Chris and Jamie and Debbie about all this stuff prior to even thinking about bringing this. So this is the negotiation we came up with, is those numbers.
I think you're gonna continue to see more incumbent worker training too. I feel like some of them have just been just over that $10,000 mark, so this would free that up for you to be able to start those trainings without receiving additional approval unless they get up to the 20,000. So I would definitely be in favor of all 3 of the increases that Tony's mentioned.
Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Is that what you were looking for, Tony?
Say again?
Is that what you were looking for? Tony?
Absolutely.
It's been so long since we've done this in person because we were having to do a roll call vote
For everything.
on everything.
That's goofy, but I got a lot of opinions.
Debbie, proposed budget.
Okay, in the packet, there was a 2-page attachment that has the proposed budget. The first page is our normal WIOA budget, annual budget. The main increase, as you can see, it went up 2.8%. Basically, the bulk of that is because Lakeland approved a 5% raise as of July 1st. So that's where that is basically coming from. We tried reducing a couple other of the other line items down below. We took out some office supplies just because we haven't been using quite as many. We also took out a little bit of the rental facilities. Now that we're a little bit more established in the new building, we felt that we could take some of that out of there. We did increase the conference and meeting expense by 1,000. I know it looks a little bit small there, but whenever I done the conference that Jamie went to, that actually is going to bump it up. So it's going to be over the $1,000. So we increased it for next year, just coming out of COVID and conferences getting back in the swing of things. Felt that that was pretty reasonable. And then, like I stated earlier, the travel, we kept the travel amounts, the travel amount the same. We just split it out between in-state and out-of-state. So everything else pretty well, we felt was good where it was. So the bulk of that is just the raise that we are looking forward to on July 1st.
Speak for yourself.
I know. Any questions on that one? Okay, the second page, like I mentioned, that's the apprenticeship grant. is basically just what the state approved as far as what we were awarded. The 98,480 was exactly what we got as far as grant money. One thing that I am anticipating whenever we submitted for that grant, we overestimated for the support staff line, but we underestimated for the fringe benefits. So we will probably have to do a modification over the next several months to sort of get that back in line. But otherwise, everything else is just basically what they said we could have for travel expenses, regular supplies. So this is basically what we were awarded. I just wanted to officially bring it to you guys for approval as far as just saying, hey, this is the money we've got to work with until June of next year. So any questions on either of these pages?
Do they tell you how to spend that money that you get, that you're awarded?
Basically, I mean,
For the Navigator grant, we did have to write part of the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. You have to fill out a very detailed budget form, and it has lines for each one that you see there. So we did have to tell them this is how much we anticipated spending in salary versus fringe benefits versus travel. We do have the option to modify as needed within realm of being reasonable.
Right.
But yes, when I submitted that grant, they did come back and ask that some of those numbers be reconsidered and looked at differently. But overall, they approved basically what we had asked for.
and basically being the first year, we were sort of going in there blind, not knowing what to expect too, so.
So will you have to submit your expenses and based on those lines too, then they'll see how you, okay.
Exactly.
And was there any kind of match for that grant?
No.
Job.
Any other questions? Then I will need a motion to approve the proposed budget. In a second,
I'll make the motion.
okay? I'll second. And then we do need a roll call, please.
Okay. Casey? Yes. Kevin?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Julie? Yes. Chris?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Okay, that's everybody.
Okay, fiscal year 22 meeting schedule. In your packet, you received the schedule for the meetings. Any questions?
One thing I did want to point out, normally we try and do the third Thursday of each quarter. But of course, December, we always bump that up just so that we don't get close to Christmas. But next June, I actually bumped that up a week also, just because with Juneteenth being a state holiday this year, but Lakeland is observing it next year, we would actually be off on the 19th. So I went ahead and moved it up to try and accommodate that holiday that got thrown in there, so.
Makes sense.
I'm hoping it doesn't come back to bite me, that I'm pushing it too quick, so.
No, I understand you. I understand the logic. The logic makes sense. Can I get a motion from somebody that hasn't
Made a motion.
made a motion yet tonight?
Casey wants to do this.
And can I get a second?
I'll second. This is Carol.
Hey,
All right.
new people, new blood. Any other business? Do we, question I had, and I don't know if I brought this up yet or not. What is going on over in Mattoon at the old consolidated building?
List, which
Yes,
is part, Mattoon School District,
yes.
received, do you want me to start talking about it?
I've got-
Do you want to leave for
Okay, in short, I mean, I've got good friend that's in Cumberland School District, that's a teacher at Cumberland, and she brought this up to me when I brought her the packet and said, you need to help me find some out-of-school youth. And she brought this to me, and it was like, that is one of the coolest things I have ever seen.
Well,
We-
wait till
we
you
met
hear
with
about
them.
Effingham Career Academy.
Yeah, we're gonna have something, not the same, but similar in
Okay.
Effingham. But
This is the
it's-
coolest thing today.
It is for anyone who doesn't know, it is a program that is being ran by Mattoon School District. And they are offering CTE or career and technical education programs at that site. They have radio, TV, communication, childcare, IT, manufacturing, HVAC, culinary arts, and leadership. I'm not sure if I caught every one of them, but that is each level or each floor within the location is assigned to a different program. So they're starting out for the fall semester. They have an intergovernmental agreement with, I think, around 20 other school districts in the area. So school districts can send students there for a portion of the day. So they can still get their required classes back in their home school district and come there for a portion of the day and get possibly a certification. And Jamie even be able to talk about, we went to a breakfast, it's been a couple of months ago. And Jamie made some contacts there as far as youth and how to help serve some of the youth. We're also working with our Center for Business and Industry at the college to be able to offer some apprenticeship opportunities. Don't know exactly what that's gonna look like yet, but still kind of working toward what that will look like. So it's a great opportunity for high school students to be able to receive a short-term certification while they're in high school. One other piece to add is they are not looking at Carnegie credit hours for their completion. They're looking at competency based. So a student will come in, and if they're in I always use welding because there's something that you can see there. If they can come in and do the proper welds and the proper beads, then they will receive that competency. So they may not be in class as long as someone else who maybe doesn't have some of the welding experience before coming in.
And will they get some dual credit?
Some dual credit, some not, depends on, from community college, depends on the instructor. Some of them do not have the required coursework to be dual credit instructors for the community college. So when they do have that, yes, dual credit. When they don't, it may just be high school credit.
So I'm just gonna share this as a fellow community college. You can share with Lakeland if I can get a hold of them. Just keep in mind that any student that earns a certificate at a place like that, the college has to add them as an additional HLC accreditation site.
Yes.
So we're kind of going through some of that with a couple schools now, so. Just.
Another
friend to
layer
friend.
of the community college.
Yeah.
And schools are given so many quote unquote seats in this, correct?
I don't know that I can speak to what that
Because
looks
she was talking
like.
about like Cumberland was giving only so many students, senior students could go, or juniors, seniors could go to Mattoon.
That might be tied to the funding.
Might be tied to the funding.
Maybe it's all, you also, the school district pays tuition to Mattoon School District.
And maybe the other ones that'll let me.
They
I
may
don't
be.
know. I just, like I said, I thought it was pretty cool. And if we could help some of these students, because just like a student driving, somehow getting from Toledo to Mattoon every day.
Mhm.
Is it school transporting or?
No, they have to transport themselves.
I don't, I
They have to
think,
transport
do they-
themselves. yeah.
I know there was discussion, some school districts like Tuscola, I think, was planning on sending more students, but they were gonna send a van down. So they were gonna come to the high school in the morning, check in at the high school, and then which that's their policy. So I think every school district could do something different, but
I'm just.
many of them will have
Yeah,
to.
and I
figure out
think
a
every
way.
school
We can
different,
help
yeah.
somebody, if a student cannot do this because of the reason of transportation or things of that, there's ways that we can help them get into these programs. I don't know how, that's what you guys do.
See, and
And that, yeah. that
It's
came up because-
unfortunate because we can't pay the tuition. It's like $1,000 or whatever.
Right.
We can't pay the tuition for it. And I forgot why. I just know we
It goes to the
can't.
public school district. It doesn't go to the college.
Yeah,
You can't pay for them to go. to
Oh,
like-
we can't pay for them to go to a private school. So if you go to a Catholic school or whatever, they cost tuition, we can't pay for the kid to go there. So we treat it the same way. DCO was actually there, Brian Ellis, and that conversation's being had, I think. I don't know how far the conversation went, but these things might be popping up more and more often. And we've got to find a way for our funds to be able to help these kids. I mean, we're hamstringing them is all we're doing.
That's exactly
Yeah.
the reason why I brought this up, was
Yeah.
that how do we,
we
Wish we
mainly
could.
talked about the work experience piece,
Mhm.
because to pay for transportation, they have to be in a training program, and since we can't pay for the training,
you're.
we can't
you're
pay for
hands
the
tied.
transportation, right?
Right,
So ours was more focused on the work experience piece of it.
okay.
Tony,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Nancy Purdy. Just had a conversation on the way to the county board meeting the other night with another former teacher, and she made the comment, which I hadn't thought about, because student numbers are going to be limited from each of the different schools, that, for instance, what is the criteria for being able to be in the program? Because possibly students that would actually need to have these kinds of skills might get cut out because they didn't make a certain level or skill or whatever. So that might be in the area where your group, our group, WIOA, is going to have to pick up anyway, eventually, once these kids are out of school. So just a thought on that. I hope that the LIFT program grows and can accept more and more students. But possibly initially, with its limited number of students, there still might be a need out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we might even partner with them. If they turn some people away, that would be great for us to maybe try to grab those kids. I don't know if we've had that conversation yet or not, if they're turning kids away, because, I mean, you're right. Some of the kids that actually do need that sort of training, they're not the kids that want to go to college, most likely. And they're the kids that probably don't have $1,000 laying around for them to go to it. So those are the kids we really need to help, the population anyway. So
I'm
maybe
glad
we
And a
do
lot of
have
the
it.
school districts are paying for it, but a lot of the school districts can't pay for it.
Right, so. I mean,
So,
you're making
and I'm
kids
sure
come up
there's
with the money.
kids falling, cracks there.
Kids that want to go to
Yeah.
it, they would certainly benefit from it, that they're left on the side of the road because of the funding, and that's too bad.
And it can just be more than just funding too. It could be that they are a student that is getting a lower grade. And they're going to give it to the AB student and not the CD student.
Right, I think that was Nancy's question, right? Now, I mean,
What
what makes that,
The
Lyft makes that?
criteria,
Yeah, they make that decision, so.
I think that's all part of the intergovernmental agreement that they have with the school districts, but it's unfortunate because the most vulnerable in your communities are sometimes the ones that have the hardest time finding the services, receiving the services, because one, they don't know, two, they have so many barriers.
And this was the point that the other board member who had been a teacher was making. She was afraid that the students who actually needed that kind of a program might not be the ones selected for that program.
And if the schools are doing it and not Lyft is doing it, then each school can have a totally different criteria. At Tune's criteria might be
Exactly.
different. Toledo, that might be different than Tuscola.
And the big one is gonna be transportation. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that's not just I'm getting a ride to school with one of my siblings, because I got 2 other siblings in high school. It's, I gotta get from Greenup to Mattoon every morning
Mhm.
or every afternoon.
Yeah.
So this program just getting
Transportation
started, right?
Yes.
So they're gonna
yes.
see these glitches and they've got to, I mean, you
Yeah.
can't think of everything. They'll come back and make some changes. You gotta hope that they will. You know, because it's just getting off the ground. They didn't even know where they needed to be.
Has it started?
No, it starts in the fall.
Starts in the fall, so it has.
Yeah,
Construction
I can
still
see
going
that
on.
happening. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Any other business? Okay, date and time of our next meeting will be September 15th at 4:30, hopefully here. Any public comment? Don't see any public. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Anyone want to second that? Casey, this is. Thank you for attending. I appreciate it. Something new for some people.
So, hey, everybody, it's Nancy, Carol doesn't need to be, Debbie, Carol's not on executive issue. So Nancy, you gotta stay on, right?
Right.
Okay. And Carol, thanks.
Thanks.
You can stick around if you want to listen to it again.
That's okay.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So if we don't have Pat, we have-
You don't need to be here for this one. Appreciate
if we don't have Pat, do we have a quorum?
We've
So
got-
Gerald will
well,
just
yeah.
be, Gerald will have to run the show.
What are we doing now?
Yes.
Just approve the budget.
Just look at me. You stay for this?
You don't get to leave ever.
So is Tiffany not gonna be here either?
No, she said that she would be here if we could not meet quorum. So if we're at quorum, I'm not gonna contact her. Are we good, Debbie?
Yeah, we've got 4 of the
You go outside.
6.
Go outside,
Yeah.
With Nancy, we've got 4 of 6, so we're good.
We're good. All
Good.
right. So we'll call this meeting to order, all right? And since you've already taken the roll, we won't ask you to do that.
Okay.
You already know. So I guess I don't have an agenda, but anyhow, is there any conflicts of interest that anyone? And being none,
Do you need a agenda?
I've got the agenda for the meeting Monday night. Okay. There we go. So far, we're good. We're at 3 out of 4. All right. The item of the day, the elephant in the room is the proposed budget. So we've already said.
Do we want to do the minutes real
Minutes.
quick?
Do we want to do the minutes? Conflict number 2. I did miss number 2. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? And see what they were
They're
all
so
about?
long.
Yes, I did read the minutes. I did print them off. I did read the minutes. So,
Yes, I read them too.
That's good. I appreciate that, Nancy. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
So move. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
You can.
Oh, I can't.
Well, then I will.
All right. I will.
I'm out. I know. I'm in so much trouble down here.
So all in favor, say aye.
This is the
Aye.
one committee you're not on.
All
I
opposed,
didn't even
same
know
sign.
this one. See?
So we have 1, 2, and 3 out of the way. We'll move on to the Lakeland College. We at 23 fiscal year 22 proposed budget, which Debbie has already went through that for all of us that are in the room. Did those that were not on the last committee that said that thought they couldn't say anything, is there anything you want to say in this committee meeting? Okay, as far as concerning the budget, we appreciate your efforts in getting this together, you know. and It's always a fun time to put together a budget, I know, you know, with county board and stuff, that was always a exhausting time, so. I don't know, I mean, I looked at it, I saw your numbers, saw you where you were at. I didn't have any issues with it. I mean, nothing jumped out, slapped me in the face and said, why on earth are you doing this? Nothing did it to anybody else?
Was
So,
the administrative salaries, the increase on the administrative salaries, was that due to the hiring of oh no, that was a grant, isn't it? The navigator, that's a grant.
yeah, that comes out of that apprenticeship program.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but a good question. Thank you. All right.
Well, and then you had mentioned that Lakeland set a 5% increase on salaries.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's probably where it came from.
Yep.
Are we
And then
obligated?
there was a,
Nothing negative.
sorry.
You know. We are obligated to follow.
According to we have agreements, we have a grant recipient board agreement that says that Lakeland College will hire competent people and they will have a fund accounting system, and they have to have policies in place to be safe, basically is what it says. So we're not obligated to, we could always change that agreement, but as far as the agreement reads, yeah, we just follow their policies because they have policies that we don't need, but they're there anyway. I mean, that's just so we don't get a grant recipient that's Tom's garage down the street or whatever. So that's.
Understand.
It takes the liability off the board if anyone were to question why we were getting a raise or being paid a certain amount. You don't have to worry about it. You refer back to Lakeland and they can show that they have these policies in place and they're abiding and using funds in the optimal manner.
Yeah, perfect.
There was
When we-
another budget.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Just a curious, I noticed, if I'm correct, that the board meetings had a budget of $3,000. Am I correct on that? And I
Yeah.
just wondered, is that for one board meeting a year, or does that cover several, or?
That's for all 4 quarterly ones, which now that we're actually getting
That's
ready
what I
to.
meant. I'm sorry.
It would have covered the meals. It would have covered if we needed to, if we couldn't meet here at SEPS and we had to rent a space, it would have covered that. The success story booklets that we printed for Monday night is going to cover that sort of expense. So that's where that 3,000 comes into play. We just haven't had to use it since we
Going from
haven't.
0 to 3,000.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because of that.
Why is there no postage? Is that covered by Lakeland? Postage and such things? I think it said 0.
I honestly
We
don't
don't owe
know
anything.
that we mailed out, so.
It was 200.
We have some stamps that are in our supply closet, but for the most part, everything's emailed, so we rarely mail anything at this point in time.
Okay. I was just curious about those. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
are we expecting, I know computer equipment, you gotta keep it replaced all the time, keep it up to date, so hopefully we utilize that and keep that updated as much as we
We
can.
always keep that out there just in case we do need to replace a laptop or something like that. All of the desktop computers, Lakeland supplies, but that's
do
just
they?
if
Okay.
we need to get a new laptop or something like
Okay.
that. So that's just sort of our fail safe, just in case something does go wrong with one of our laptops. So.
Which was nice to have in 2020 when we went remote and then suddenly we needed additional laptops. So
Yeah.
hopefully we don't get into that same predicament again, but it
Understood.
was nice to have that.
Understood. So maybe a bigger question just for me to get informed here. When we look at a budget like this, is there a certain rules and regulations that we have to stay within so much percent of our total funding? Is there anything like that that says we have to
No.
stay within a certain
I don't
percent of that, or we
think so.
can't like exceed so much of our funding for administrative costs?
Yeah, right. I know where you're going with this. It's like the state can only hold back like 10% or
Yeah.
something like that. And I
Yeah.
don't think so. I think we just have to meet all the other percentages
Okay,
as far as the training percentage and the
okay.
the
that's all.
program percentages.
Okay,
But our budget is about as bare bones as we can get.
yeah, I know.
and we only got 3 staff. and
Yeah.
Because Nate comes out of a different funding stream, so.
Because I remember in years past, it's always been, and Jerry would make fun of this, if we can keep everyone working for nothing, then we have more to give to the people. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the extreme, but that was Jerry, you know, when he would talk about stuff like that. But I always wondered, was there a criteria that, you know, administrative costs could not exceed, you know, so much of what your funding was going to be, but if that's not the case, yeah.
I don't.
No,
I
I
don't
think that there isn't a set rules, but as long as you think all your other
Criteria,
stipulations, but I mean, I think if you start spending an extravagant amount, I think it might throw up some red
They're
flags.
just not
but-
gonna give you that money. I mean, that's-
Well, right, and that's where they came up with the 50% training rule, because people like. We're set up a little different than a lot of areas are, but I mean, people would be going to Puerto Rico and Las Vegas and
For
so
training.
for training or whatever, but. So their overhead costs were 70% of their budget, so they're spending 30% on actual participants.
Yeah.
And that's why they came up with that, so.
So, got you.
That's, yeah, so it's, but as far as grant recipient budget versus the total budget, there's no percentage that we have to meet. We just have to meet the program side percentages.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns? Nancy, do you have any other questions?
No, you guys have covered it well. Thank you.
Okay. With no other questions, do I have a motion that we go ahead and make the proposal to the full board to approve this budget? Does anyone
I'll
want to
make
make
the
that?
motion, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I can second it.
Okay, Kevin. All
Roll
right.
call.
I think we're gonna do a roll call on this one.
Okay, Pat's not here. Gerald,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes,
no Tiffany, and Nancy.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, very good, very good. We appreciate everybody's work on that. Any other business? Anything anyone has to bring up? If there's no business, anyone just got something, and please keep it pertaining to our reason for our meeting here, not just back other public comments. Any closing remarks? Pat's not here to make any closing remarks. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
All right,
I'll second.
thanks, Mike, Kevin, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Thank you, Nancy, all righty. Meeting adjourned.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
bye, everybody.
I really appreciate you guys.
See ya.
meeting in person. This is awesome.
Yes, it is.
It ain't gonna be better Monday. It's gonna get hot in here. 2 years.
There's gonna be food.
There's gonna be food.
I know.